Last May, I put out a video that shows you how to control your Tesla with your iPhone using the Shortcuts app, and everything worked absolutely free. And it even allowed you to do some automations that you can't do with commercially available apps. And it worked great, and I got a lot of positive feedback, and I use it myself on a daily basis. That was until iOS 15 came out. And unfortunately, the Shortcuts app, which is an app produced by Apple, broke the Shortcuts app in many ways, and it resulted in all of that work that I presented to you in May to control your Tesla to also break and stop working. Now, the Shortcuts app, which is controlled by Apple, I was hoping they would recognize that they had a problem and put out an update. And I've been waiting, and I've been waiting. And unfortunately, it doesn't appear that Apple is motivated to update the app. So if Apple wasn't going to fix their app to make my shortcuts work, I was going to figure out how to change my shortcuts to make it work with the broken app. So I went back to the drawing board and I tried to figure it out. I had to do a couple of different ways to figure out how to make it work, and I am glad to report that I finally figured it out. And I want to share with you right now how to get them working again and hopefully show you some new stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing is I'm going to leave the May video up on my channel because it does cover a lot of the basics on what is shortcuts, how do they work, how do they control your Tesla, why are they safe, how do shortcuts work in general, and all of that's in that video, and it all still applies today. So I really encourage you to follow the link here and check that out if what I'm saying to you doesn't make any sense. So like the past videos, we're going to cover this video in 3 layers. Layer 1, we're going to be covering what changed in iOS 15, what you need to do to adapt to make these things work again. Layer 2, we're going to get into the shortcuts. I'm going to be transparent with you, and you can view this on your own once you download them as far as what am I doing, how are they working, and how will they work differently this time around. And layer 3, we're going to cover something completely new. It's a brand new automation that I developed. I've actually been using it myself for many, many months, and now I'm ready to share it with you. One of the hotly debated topics of a Tesla owner is, what do I charge my battery to? And everyone says, well, Elon says 80, 90. Some people say I want battery to last a long time, so I want to do 60 during all the time, but then they have to manually adjust the app to figure out what they want and when. Well, I created an automation for myself, and it works like this. Monday through Friday, my car charges to 60% because I have a relatively small commute, and I want to keep the charge rate low to minimize the stress on the battery. However, on the weekends, I might want to go for a trip. I might need to go for a longer ride. It may be unpredictable, and I want to have enough battery available to me. So on the weekends, I want to have 90% available to me, and then back on Monday to 60%. And I've written an automation using shortcuts that will do this for you automatically, and you don't need to do anything. And we're going to get around to showing you that too if you stick around to layer 3. Layer 1 is actually pretty short, which is iOS 15 changes. And the biggest thing that they did in iOS 15 with reference to shortcuts is they messed around with all of the privacy settings associated with how shortcuts run. And when you run these shortcuts that you download, run them all individually, and you're going to get a series of prompts asking you for permission to access certain parts of your own device to allow the shortcut to automate it. Simply say yes every step of the way, and then eventually once it runs the first time, you won't be prompted for those things again. Now, before you can download these shortcuts in the link below, you have to enable your device to allow you to do that. Now, in iOS 15, they changed it a little bit. You actually have to go into the settings of your device, find shortcuts, and in there you need to turn on two switches. The first one is called private sharing. Private sharing is what they're saying is I can download shortcuts from someplace other than Apple's gallery. You're going to need to do that before you can actually download any of the shortcuts in the description below. The next thing that you're going to have to make sure that's turned on is the iCloud sync. And that's going to be important because along with iCloud, the solution that I have provided utilizes your own personal iCloud drive to store nuggets of data that allows it to pass from shortcut to shortcut, which we'll get into layer 2. So basically, that is it. Download the shortcuts, make sure your privacy sharing is turned on, make sure iCloud sync is turned on, and then you're going to want to run each of these shortcuts individually and answer the prompts as you go along. Once you do that, then all of the automations that you have available to you will work. So let's get into layer 2, which is let's dive into how this actually works. Now let's get into layer 2, which is how do these shortcuts work? Now I'm not going to go into the level of detail that I put in the last time in the last video. You're more than welcome again to go look at that video. I'm going to cover the high points. So if you remember from the last video, you need actually 2 apps on your device in order to make this work. The first app is the Shortcuts app, and if you don't have it on your device, go ahead and download it from the App Store. It is free and Apple creates it. The second app you're going to need is another free app that's put out by a third-party developer called Auth for Tesla, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. That is going to be a key component that you're going to need in order to be able to log into your car and control your car. And it looks like this on the screen. The top left is Auth for Tesla, the next one is Shortcuts. Now, when you run the Auth for Tesla, it will ask you to log into your Tesla account through a secure method. I covered that in the last video, and once you've done that, you are good to go to get the shortcuts working. So let's go ahead and go into the Shortcuts app and see what we have. Now, I'm running on an iPad, but this will also work on an iPhone. And you'll see here's a list of all of the shortcuts that are available for you to download below. And I'm going to take you through a few of them and explain how they work. The very first shortcut that triggers for just about every one of these shortcuts is called Wake Up Tesla. And when I run that simply by tapping it, you'll see that there is a progress meter that happens, and after it is done, if all is successful, you'll get a checkbox that it was done. Now, remember from the beginning of the video, I said once you download these the first time, you're going to have to run each one of these things individually and acknowledge any of the privacy prompts that might pop up. Since I've already done that on this, you're not going to see any of those in this particular video. So let's go ahead and show you what's going on inside and how it is different from the last video. I'm going to go ahead and tap the ... in the upper right hand corner of the shortcut, and that takes me to the editor. And here the editor pops up. And on the left hand side is like a script. And it is a series of steps, actions that you can program to make your system do what you want to do. So let's go ahead and walk you through quickly what this is doing. Just like the last one, it has to get what's called an access token. That comes from that Auth app that you signed into. The access token is allowing this shortcut, which is on your device, controlled by you, to gain access to that token and saying, hey, I need to be able to connect to my car. I'm going to set it to a variable, and then I'm going to call what's called Tesla's API, or Application Programming Interface. And it's really just a web call where you pass it data, and if you pass the right data, it will give you data back. And that's what this first call is, and that first call gives you back a list of your vehicles when you pass it your token. And if you've got more than one Tesla, you're going to have to modify this particular item. But I'm assuming you have one Tesla, like I do. And you'll see that I'm going to get the first item from the response, and I'm going to set that to a car ID. And there I'm going to stick it in what's called a dictionary. And a dictionary is just a collection of things. Think of it like a file cabinet storing files, but this is a digital version of individual snippets of data. And I'm going to store that dictionary and the card ID in that dictionary. And this is exactly the way that this worked before. Now here's the difference for iOS 15. What you're going to do is we're going to save that data to a file on your iCloud drive. Now if you're logged into iCloud, you get iCloud Drive for free. You don't need to do anything other than acknowledge that you want to access the shortcuts directory, and it will store that snippet of information into a file. And when you hit the run button by pressing the little run at the top, it should walk all the way through. Final step is to wait 6 seconds, and it completed. I've successfully woken up my car. And if you get an error message, it's likely it has something to do with your Auth for Tesla not working properly, but it should pretty much work right out of the box. If you don't get any error messages, that's good. And you're not going to see the car do anything because basically all you're doing is waking it up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And the next thing that I'm going to show you is the honk horn. And I'm first going to run it, and it's going to do something. And eventually it should run. I should get the check marks, and I should hear my car honk in the garage. And it did. You might not have heard it on this video. And there I get the checkbox. Good to go. What's going on inside there? It's a little different from the last one. First thing it's going to do, it's going to run another shortcut, which is wake up my Tesla. Every one of these shortcuts calls the wake up my Tesla, which goes and gets your token, it gets your car ID, it makes sure your car is woken up, and then it proceeds. The next thing it's going to do is going to say get file from shortcuts, this teslainfo.json. That's that file we saved from the last shortcut. Now, the part that broke in iOS 15 was being able to automatically transfer data from one shortcut to another, which the old stuff did. And that actually works, when it worked, was a really slick way of doing it because you didn't actually have to save the data anywhere. But that's what's broken. That's what I needed to get around. So what it does is that each individual shortcut runs independently. It stores the little snippet of data onto your iCloud drive, and then the next one opens that data with the get file, pulls the token out, pulls the car ID out, and then what it does is it calls the API at Tesla to say, based on my car ID and my token, which you don't really need to worry about, run this command, which is honk_horn, and once you run that command, your horn will honk. As you can see it step by step. First waking up the Tesla, and my car horn just honked. Now, all of them work almost the exact same way. Flashing lights, unlocking your doors, locking your doors, starting your climate control, stopping your climate controls, opening the charge port. And also, I should point out is that the open charge port, if you are plugged in, if you run that shortcut, it will actually unlock the charge port at the same time using the same shortcut. We have closed charge port, open trunk, open front trunk. And the reason why I don't call it a frunk on the shortcut is because when I want to activate it with Siri, Siri seems to have a problem with auto-correcting at least my words when I say open frunk, and it will change it to open trunk, and it does the opposite of what I do. So I had to kind of get around that problem by saying open front trunk, not exactly what I want to say. Your luck may be different. You can rename these any way you want. We have a set temperature 2. The set temperature 2 will allow you to use your voice to set the climate control temperature to anything that you want. Stop charging, vent windows if you want to open your vent windows. And then we have a close window, which is 2 over from that. And the close window will close your windows if you need to. Now the one to the left, that which is get Tesla location, is an interesting one, and you feel free to dive in there, but in order to close your windows, you have to tell Tesla where you are. And in order to tell Tesla where you are, you have to contact your car and ask the car, where are you? And that get Tesla location shortcut does exactly like you would expect. It gets your Tesla location, passes it to the closed windows, and the windows close. Now, if you get through the last section of the last video in May, I covered an area called Get My Tesla Ready to Go in the Morning. And it is a cool automation that I put together. It's now working again, but essentially what this automation did is every morning it runs through the automation section, which I will show you in a minute. And when it runs, it will wake up the car. It will determine if it's a weekday, the top shortcuts up there, you'll say Get Weekday. And there's also another one, Get Temperature. So if it is a weekday, which means I'm going to work, it will go and get the current temperature right then and there. And when it gets the current temperature from my location, it will say, is the temperature less than 60 degrees? And if it is less than 60 degrees, go ahead and start the climate controls before I'm ready to go out there. And that actually worked out for me really well in the winter time when it's super cold, even in my garage. It says, oh, it's cold outside, turn on the climate controls, and it's set to the temperature that I had it previously set to, or you can use a shortcut to set it to what you want. And I went out to a toasty, warm car. And then when the temperature gets warmer in the summertime, the automation continues to run, but because it's already 60 degrees outside, nothing happens. So it works exactly the way you would expect in the background. That one's there. So that's basically how the shortcuts work. Again, if you want any more details on any of the ones that we just covered, pop back over to that video I did in May. I go over all of those in detail. So now if you stuck around, we're going to go over to layer 3. And layer 3, we're going to do something completely new. Welcome back to layer 3. Glad you stuck around. I'm going to actually show you something really cool. And it is something that Tesla owners like to talk about, which is what should I charge my car to on a daily basis? Now, Elon has come out and said 90% is fine. The car indicates that anything up to 90 is fine. Used to be 80%. There are other studies, if you go diving on the internet, that says the lower you keep the charge of your battery, around 50-60%, perhaps that is less stress on the battery. And I wrote an automation, at least for me. Here's what I wanted to do. On Monday through Friday, I wanted to charge my car to 60%. On the weekends, though, I will want more battery available to me. I don't know where I'm going to go. I may not have a plan. I may have a plan, but I want to have 90% on the weekends. So Saturday, Sunday, 90%. So I don't want to have to remember on every day or every week to adjust those percentages manually. Fortunately for shortcuts, you can automate this, and I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, the first shortcut that you have to look at is the set charge level to 60%, which is on the bottom of the screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at that and see what's going on. First thing that's happening is I'm waking up my Tesla, that top item up there. Then I'm opening up that little file we talked about before in layer 2 of this video, and we're getting the token ID and the car ID. And the next thing you'll see, I've got a value of 60. I'm setting that 60 to a variable, which is just a place to store the number, called charge level. And then I'm calling a command called set charge limit. And inside this URL, get contents of URL, I'm passing a token, and I'm also passing the charge level. So by running this, I set the car charge level to 60%. And if you want to change it to something else, just change it to something else and you'll have your own setting. All right, it's done. And my car is set to 60%. I'll hit done. The next thing that I want to do is for the weekends, I want to duplicate that. Well, I've already done that for you. If you go into the 90%, it's the exact same shortcut, different name, but it's got a 90 instead of a 60. You run this, wakes up Tesla, takes 6 seconds to wake up the Tesla because it doesn't always wake up exactly perfectly, very quickly. It runs the URL to set the charge limit, sets it to 90, and then when it's done, it finishes and stops. Now, how do we pull those two things together? It is with the yellow shortcut on the screen here called Set Daily Charge Limits. So let's take a look at what's going on inside there. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the weekday. And in order for me to do that, that weekday, I'm not going to show you that, but you can dive into it if you want. That weekday actually just goes and gets a number 1 through 7 based on the day of the week and stores that value in a little snippet of a text file. We read that text file and we store the day into a variable. The next thing we want to do is wake up our Tesla. And you'll notice that I do wake up, 15-second wait, wake up, 15-second wait, wake up, 15-second wait. Sometimes when your car is in a deep sleep, it doesn't wake up very fast. Now this thing happens, going to show you how this can happen in the background at a certain time, whatever time you want to do it. And so having this shortcut run over a period of a minute in your pocket, you're never even going to know it's happening. So making sure the car is truly woken up, you'll make sure that these values get set. Then you see an if statement. So it says if my weekday is between 0 and 5, set the charge limit to 60%. If it is 6 or 7, set the charge level to 90%. And then I set this up to run automatically every day. So how do I do that? Let's take a look. The first thing you're going to want to go to is either on the iPad, it's on the left-hand side of the screen. On your phone, it's at the bottom. You want to select automations. And automations is where you can enter in stuff to automatically trigger things. And what we want to do is we want to create a personal automation. So go ahead and select that. And you get a series of options. Certain time of day, when I leave, when I arrive, leaving geolocation, email messages. There's a whole bunch of lists. But what we are looking for is time of day. And we want to do it at a specific time of day. And I'm going to say, let's just say 11 a.m. It's just an arbitrary time that I picked. You can pick whatever time you want. So at 11 a.m., we're going to do it every day. What do we want to do? I'm going to hit add action, and I'm going to type in run shortcut. And there it is. I'm going to hit run shortcut. And what I want to run, I'll tap it. And we want to go to set daily charge limits. Hit next. So you're going to see here, I'm going to, at 11 a.m. every day, I'm going to run this shortcut, and then the bottom one says ask before running. Turn that off. Turn that off. I say don't ask. I say done. My automation is set. Every day at 11 a.m. it's going to run the set daily charge limits. It's going to do its thing, and you don't need to do anything else. So that's it. That's layer 3. You now understand in general terms how to get it working again if it was broken for you, or how to get it working period if you're new to this video. And I also showed you some new ways to automate your car. And I am working on even more, as I alluded to at the beginning of this video, on how to automate your car beyond what the normal apps on the App Store can do. And when I get those done, I will be excited to share them with you in future videos. All right, that's it. Shortcuts are working again. For how long? I hope for a while, but you never know. Tesla likes to change things. Apple likes to change things, but hopefully you found this video interesting. Hopefully you can see the power of shortcuts in controlling your car and the kind of automation that's available to you. I hope to be able to put out more videos like this. I have a whole bunch more automations that I'd love to share with you. Some of them involving camping and automating your climate controls while you're sleeping, and a few other things that I'm working on, like maybe a software-only free version of HomeLink. Almost got that one ready. And when I get it ready, I'm going to share it with you. And the only thing that I ask for you, if you like this video, is hit that like button. Even better, hit that subscribe button. About 95% of my viewers are not subscribers. So do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It is absolutely free. So that's it for now. Until the next time, safe driving.